It's the first time I've hit record and have to tell somebody to stop talking as I hit record. It's crazy. Okay. All right. If makeup makes me happy, wouldn't it be in heaven? If something makes me happy, will it be in heaven? Will my pet? If someone asks me about a pet being in heaven one more time, all right. So I'm going to answer the first question. I don't think the reason why you wear makeup is for a myriad of different reasons throughout human history, okay? You have a new body. So I don't think you're even going to look necessarily exactly the way you look now. Because think about it. Everybody seen the movie Coco? All right. In the movie Coco, at the end, or whenever you go to the land of the dead to be a skeleton kind of looks the way it was when it died. So it's really kind of weird because her dad looks like her dad when he died, when he was like in his 30s or 20s or whatever. And Coco, the grandma, she dies, she's like 98 years old, and she goes to heaven 98, but she's like hugging her father who's like 40, 50 years younger than her. So when you die, there's no saying that you're going to die and your body's going to be the way it was when you died, or the same body that you had, or like in your 20s, or your ideal look. So, and there's nothing that says that the things that make you happy are the things that are going to be in heaven. That's not the case, because what's going to make you happy in heaven isn't necessarily the things that make you happy on earth. Happiness is an emotion. Anybody not happy right now? Who's happy like currently? All right. Who's sad currently? Depressed, anxious, annoyed, angry, frustrated, right? Those are all emotions, and you're allowed to feel those emotions. It's like, for whatever reason, Christians think in-right, outright, upright, downright, happy all the time. Not true. It's not true that you are required or you're somehow more spiritual because you're happy, right? Joy and happiness are not the same thing. Happiness is temporary. Those of you who are happy, if I walked up to you and spit in your face and slapped you, you would not be happy anymore. You'd probably be grossed out, disgusted, probably a little angry, a little frustrated, embarrassed, whatever those feelings are. But happiness isn't one of those things, all right? Happiness is temporary and a reasonable emotion, but so is sadness and so is anger. All these emotions are reasonable. Now, if you don't have control over your emotions, that's a different thing. But there's a proper response to death, and there's a proper response to marriage, and a proper response to love, and all these actions that we feel around us, there's proper responses, all right? So joy is not an emotion. It is a state of being once we have eternal life, meaning that no matter what circumstance we are in, we can have joy because we know we have Christ in eternity. We could still be mourning and feel joy. Because, for example, I'm going to just say it, Emily probably isn't happy right now, but she has joy. There's some emotions going on when it comes to family members, and if they pass away, she might not be super thrilled about. But she has joy for two reasons. One, she has the hope that and the faith that she has, and she also, knows about her own salvation and resurrection. That's important. So makeup in heaven, I doubt, because the necessity is gone. But just because it makes you happy doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be there. It's not like a tailor-made heaven. There's some other people who think they get their own tailor-made heaven where, unicorns poop cheeseburgers or something like that. I don't know. Well, your pet, I don't know. And you don't get what you want just because you're there. Again, what you want changes when you're in the presence of your Lord and Savior. Don't think your pets are going to be there, but they may. They don't have a soul. So it doesn't matter. So they might be because they don't have sin in their lives in order to keep them from heaven. At the same time, They don't have sin in their life. So they may be what most people think happens when they die. If they're atheists, they just believe things that we die and we don't have anything. I don't know. I tend to lean toward no. But again, I'm going to remind you, and I've said this probably 6 or 7 times. If you died in your house, and you were the only one in your house, and you're a single person, and you're a hermit, and you died in your house, and you loved your animals, and they're all around you, your animals would eat you to survive. It's just the reality of it. They don't have anybody else to feed them, and your body is there. So your animals don't feel that same affection for you necessarily that you feel for them. All right? I understand that might be like, oh, well, that's kind of harsh. That's great. Your pets do, like, love you, if you want to call it that, but that's because you pet them and feed them and care for them, and that love. Cats learned how to purr. Do you understand that? They don't do that in the wild. Do you want to know why cats purr? Because you like it when they purr. When you pet a cat and they purr, you're like, oh, the cat loves me. It's like, yeah, I can come up with that sound, so you pet me more and feed me more. Like, that's literally why they came up with it. There is no, like lions, they're not like, they're not doing that, okay? So, I'm going to squash this. I'm not going to answer that question. That question is answered and done. If I see another, is my dog going to be in heaven? Are my chickens going to be in heaven? Or do animals go to heaven? If I see any of those, I'm just going to be like, I don't know, and then move on. I feel like I beat that dead horse who may or may not be in heaven.
Could you imagine if the next question was just like, is my dog going to be in heaven?
I don't have an answer for that. I don't even know what that is.
What is it?
Opinions on Skibbity Toilet.
Whoever did this.
All right. I don't have an opinion on it. I don't know what it is. I think it's some lame phrase that old people said. Don't know. I've never said it before. If you guys know what it is, that's my opinion on it. I have no clue. Fine. I have no idea. That's my opinion. I don't know. Because I don't watch lame things on TikTok. So that doesn't happen. All right. Where did Jesus go after he died, before his resurrection? So in the we'll call it the 3 days of his death, after his death. Where did he go? Well, he has a spiritual body, right? So his physical body's dead in the grave. But he still has the spirit, right? It's before Christ was born, right? Before he had a physical body, he still existed. He showed up multiple times in the Old Testament, right? We understand that? So when it says the angel of the Lord in the Old Testament, for example, when Jacob is wrestling with the angel of the Lord, he's wrestling with the pre-incarnate, what we call the pre-incarnate Christ, right? It's Jesus before he has a physical birth body. Here, just... It's fine. I'll shake it up. Just put it in the box. It's fine. So, Jesus still has a spiritual body. Understood? So that means that, right, another good example is when he's standing in the way of Balaam. When Balaam's riding his donkey. That's the pre-incarnate Christ. The angel of the Lord is often the phrase used. When Abraham receives the message that he's going to have a child, and that's the messenger from the Lord, I believe that's the pre-incarnate Christ. And he has the 2 angels before they go into Sodom and Gomorrah. So he's there. Well, he doesn't have a physical human birth body, but he's able to manifest himself in a human form. So when his body's dead, he's not like taking a nap and sleeping spiritually in the tomb. He's wherever he is, doing whatever he does. There is some idea that he goes down and releases those who were dead in the there's a passage that says that he preached to the dead, right? This idea that he went to those saints that believed in Christ, or the promise of Christ in the Old Testament, and brought them into heaven, out of Abraham's bosom. That's one of the ideas, and I like that idea. I think it's reasonable. Everybody who died in the Old Testament believing that Christ would come is saved. In the same way you're saved, in that you're believing Christ will come, but you're looking back to the crucifixion. They're looking toward the crucifixion. So it's the same concept. So that's what I believe. Before the resurrection, in the however many hours between his death and his resurrection, that's what he was doing. But go is a weird word. Where did he go? I mean, his body, his physical body that he resurrected with was still in the tomb. His spirit, which is a separate entity, was doing whatever it was doing, which there's not a lot of evidence to what he was doing. And I think this is... maybe. Are unicorns real? Maybe. I don't see the problem with mammalian creatures is they are a little bit different on the... Well, here's the best way to put it. Mammoths are real, and it looks like cave paintings have painted unicorns, right? But they're smaller creatures that may have been consumed. So you might not find their fossilized bones or preserved items or bones or anatomy. But if you go into France and you look at the cave paintings in France, it clearly seems like there are drawings of unicorns. So they're not Pegasus, there's no wings, they're just horses with horns on their heads. So yes, possibly. Maybe an Ice Age type creature. I mean, we see those types of creatures anyway, like narwhal and things like that. They have the horns on their heads, so. Are they magical creatures that poop out cheeseburgers? No. They're just animals.
Probably just horses with
Yeah. I'm going to take this as an opinion question because it's weird. It says, are cats better than dogs or are dogs better than cats? All right, here's my answer. So here, yeah, I get these questions. They're annoying. The weird answer to that. So each of those two pets have a purpose. I prefer dogs. They seem to have more of a purpose than a cat. But if I'm on a farm, cats are great. They take care of rodents, mice, things like that. Dogs seem to be both companion. Cats don't care about you. Your cat doesn't love you. The cat doesn't love anybody. It doesn't even love its own kittens. It's like, go fend for yourself. That's literally how cats behave. If they are loving you, it's because they want food. I know my cat, if it's like rubbing against my legs because it wants something from me, I'm like, get out of here, cat. But my dogs, I feel like they seem more affectionate. They're also, I believe, I'm just mean like this. I believe my dogs, although they're smart, are just dumber. But I mean, each animal has its own purpose, especially when you're using them for pets or animals. So like some dogs are guard dogs and more work related. Never seen a cat find a child in a burning building. I don't think they care. They're like, deal with it. But a dog would. So better is a weird phrase to use. I prefer dogs over cats. Dogs don't go to the bathroom in boxes. I prefer Pepsi. Coke or Pepsi? Diet Pepsi is my preference.
Oh, no.
I'll drink either one, but I only drink diet soda. I only drink diet soda and...
Wait,
I'm running out of questions, just so you know. And so far, I've only had one good one. Oh, my goodness.
What was the good one?
The one about what Jesus was doing.
that was mine.
I don't have... This isn't a question. Micah Smith, a good BJJ fighter. Is. Okay, I see it. You had to roll it up. You really could have put that on like this big of a piece of paper. I consider myself a blue belt with a white belt. I have all the skill to submit blue belts. I have all the skill to submit other white belts. I get submitted just as much, but I have all the skill and all the knowledge to do it. However, I can't get my belt because I don't have enough time to train. So I know the moves. I know how to get set up in the moves. I know how to defend myself from many of the moves. I'm a decent submission grappler. And I think my wrestling background helps a lot too. I know weight distribution, center of gravity,
Was that
takedowns.
a question?
No, it's an okay question. I like Bible questions, so I feel like that's what I'm here for. This is a decent question. What is the patriarchy?
Thank you, Boss. Okay, you're mine. I don't know what it is. I hear it a lot.
The patriarchy. So it's a system in which people believe that men rule the world over women. So first of all, you got to talk about what a hierarchy is, okay? and the existence of hierarchies and whether they're good or bad. Okay, hierarchy is where there's an order in which things exist, and certain people are on top and other people are on bottom, right? Ideally, obviously, we'd love to have everything equal, where there is nobody on top and nobody on bottom, and everybody's equal. That's called socialism, which is really good in your brain, and it's an imaginary thing, but in practice never works. What ends up happening with socialism, instead of making everything equal, you just make bigger gaps in a smaller middle class. There is no middle class. It's just really, really poor people and really, really rich people. And that's what ends up happening in most socialist situations. But the idea of socialism is that everybody's equal, okay? Never exists. So a hierarchy is where there are people on the top. Doesn't necessarily have to be money, although money does seem to drive a lot of power and influence. But there are people on top in charge and people that aren't in charge. A good example of a hierarchy would be the military, right? You know, you have generals at the top, privates at the bottom, and everything in between. When people accept a hierarchy, you have order, right? So again, in the military, everybody kind of accepts the hierarchy. They know that it's feasible for them to raise up on that hierarchy, to work higher, to get a higher position. It might not be easy or possible to get the highest position, but you can continue to go up the ladder. As long as everybody kind of accepts the existence of that hierarchy, you have order and you have reason, right? And then a patriarchy is the idea that men have developed the hierarchy and set themselves up to be successful over everybody else, women specifically. So the patriarchy exists, in my opinion, but it's not necessarily tyrannical or bad or negative. It's been the way our social structure has basically set itself up. It set itself up to say, okay, and we could just look at our government, in fact, and the idea that most men are in positions of power, most men are in those situations. But it's also because most men join the military, and most men are in the police force, and most men are civil servants and all those other things. It's because of choice, not because of some sort of tyrannical situation. Nobody's like kicking women out of things, closing the door and holding them shut. How do we elect officials?
Voting.
So, I mean, if you're not, I do understand that women weren't allowed to vote for a long period of time, mostly because of their own options and their own choice. That's because of selective service. Anybody know what that is? I'm ranting, but I'm going to be careful. Anybody know what selective service is? It's a draft. Every 18-year-old male, every single one of them has to sign up for the selective service. So if there is a draft, their number can be called. Girls, you're exempt. So originally when women's suffrage started and they wanted to vote, the big hang-up was, well, we don't want to sign up for the selective service because we're women. So they're like, if we now aren't going to serve our country in that way, then we shouldn't be voting. And that was a major hang-up and why that took so long, because a lot of women weren't on board. Eventually, obviously, you got the right to vote. Guess what kept happening after you got the right to vote? Men kept getting voted into positions of power. It's about 50-50 split, men and women in America, by the way. It's not, actually, I think it's slightly tilted toward the women as far as the majority, because men die earlier than women. So why is there not a female president? Either not enough of you are voting, or none of them want to be, or none of them, even the last time the women had a choice, the platform maybe wasn't right. So it's just the way it is. Like, eventually, I believe there will be a female president. Great, as long as not just because she's a female, but because her policies are right and people aren't just voting because of gender. But again, there's no tyrannical patriarchy in that there are men specifically out there trying to make what. I'm not saying there is none, but that's not the predominant Western culture, is that men are trying to keep women down. A lot of men invented a lot of the things that women use monthly, put it that way.
Politician just isn't like a common job that most women choose as like a...
They just don't. They choose other professions. That's the way it is. There's nothing wrong with more women are nurses, more women teach in schools, more women do that. Should we make that equal too? More men are in prison. Should we make that equal? Like, not everything is about equality. It's about choice. It's about choice. I'm not answering that. That's mean. Okay? Doesn't matter. I'm not even going to dignify it. People are just being mean. Ask him. Whoever wrote that, ask him. Then he's probably going to roll his eyes and tell you to shut up.
Like,
Yeah, well, not half. There's more girls here than boys. Favorite Bible quote? I mean, I assume you actually mean like verse, but I guess a quote would be something someone said. I have a few. Most of them I think are funny. So the first one would be when Balaam's donkey's talking and asking Balaam, hey, have I ever done this to you before? Why are you hitting me like this? I've never done this to you before. I've ever been your donkey for a long time. I've ever misbehaved. And it's speaking in perfect King James English if you're reading it from the King James. And if you are reading from the King James, Balaam's response is nay. And I think that's funny. So the other thing is when and it's not a form of disrespect, but it is an interesting response when Mary is asking Jesus about the wine, and he says, what do I have to do with you, woman? I always find that interesting. There are, quotes are hard, but there are some decent ones that I find humorous, at least. Situations. So favorite Bible quote, I suppose that would be. My favorite Bible verse is, those vary too. I think one of my favorite situations too is Jesus just resurrected, okay? This is an important element to our perception of who Christ is. So he resurrects. What do you all picture when I talk about Jesus resurrected? Raise your hand. Moses?
Is that picture that you use in your sermon?
Okay. Anybody else? I'm going to talk about that. I don't want you to give it away.
Really poor perspective, and specifically a big golden ring around Jesus' face because he's supposed to look significantly different.
Yeah, so maybe you see like the common picture of like just glowing halo behind Jesus while everybody else looks normal. Anybody else?
what I picture when you say Jesus resurrect.
Yeah, resurrection of Jesus. What do you
I'm gonna
picture
be
of Jesus?
kind of honest. It's like whenever I even think of resurrect, I always think of like
Zombies?
No, the zombies and the
Mummies,
vampire
yeah.
thing. And whenever I think
Nosferatu.
of Jesus waking up, I just think of him like sitting up. And he's like, I don't know.
Yeah, fair enough. So, I picture a gardener. So, Jesus, when he's resurrected, he's outside. I don't know what he's wearing. I don't know if he's wearing one of those big sun hats and carrying like a pitchfork, but he's outside. And Mary comes up to him, mistaking him for a gardener, and says, where have you taken his body? What have you done with him? And he's, I don't know what he looks like, but he doesn't look like what you just mentioned, like, oh, like just anytime you talk to him, there's this like choir, oh, he doesn't do that. He's just standing there. And whatever he's wearing, by the way, looks like gardener attire. Maybe he's wearing coveralls, but whatever he's wearing, it doesn't seem like he belongs there. But what snaps her into realizing who he is, anybody know how he convinces her he is who he is? Not Moses, because he obviously remembers the sermon. What's he say? He just says her name. He just says Mary. That's all he has to say. Just Mary. Because Mary knows him so intimately that just hearing him say her name makes her realize who he is. It's a beautiful picture. But, that I find funny too, that he's like looks like a gardener and she's confused.
Wait.
How many repeated / important numbers are there in the Bible? All right. 3 is a commonly used number. 3 frequently represents like divinity, or at least the Trinity. And so 3 is the number of days for the resurrection and multiple things. Keep your hand down for a second. That is the Trinity. So 3 is a common word, a common number. 7 is also a common number. Someone asked Jesus, how many times should you forgive your neighbor? And he says 70 times 7, so 490 times. So 7 is a common number. That's not perfection, that's completion. So at the end of a certain period of time, 7. 12 is a number of all inclusion. I believe that it means anytime something like 12, it means that it means everybody. Everybody's included. So 12 loaves on the tabernacle, 12 apostles, 12 disciples, 12. There are other numbers used that I'm not sure if they're like a consistent symbolic nature behind them. The 6 is a number used, 10 is a number used, stuff like that. I think those have earthly significance. Why is 10 significant? Go for it.
Because most cultures use a decimal system for numbers.
Why? Why do most systems use a 10-digit decimal system?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Because you have 10 fingers.
Yeah.
And that's why we don't do 7. You can do 7s if you want to. And I think actually the Romans did 5s. If you recall. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, IV, V, X.
Yeah.
So they did 5s. But that's for the same reason. Actually if you take a math class in college that teaches you how to teach math, you have to learn how to count at different powers. So you're doing 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's a pain to try and multiply and subtract like that. But those are the numbers I can think of. Plagues had 10, right? So, I mean, they're numbers that are significant, but it's hard to pinpoint. Was Obama a better president than Biden? Yeah, I would say so. I think the way you tell somebody's presidency is normally by their foreign policy, and especially presidents, because it's their responsibility, and their how they enforce the laws. So I think that we had less problems with our border during Obama's presidency. I think his foreign policy was reasonable. If you're going to, Moses, that's an extra question, write it down. Unless you're debating what I think.
I wanted to say something about the last question.
Numbers, go ahead.
Yeah, I knew the numbers thing because I learned it in that math history class at C.
Great.
So it did work out.
There you go. So you hated that math history class, but it actually paid off.
99.9% of it was basically useless.
Yeah, but digit powers of 10. Yeah, you could count to 10.
And the one thing that was useful, I already knew. Like, I can count
Yeah.
myself by fingers.
Right. So I believe personally, if the election was for Obama and Biden, which would be interesting if two Democratic people were, because then you'd have to pick one or the other, I would probably vote for Obama. Or not vote at all, which is normally my response. I just told you this. Favorite Jesus/God having a sense of humor moment. When God created the platypus, think that's hilarious. A mammal that lays eggs and doesn't do live birth and has a pouch and poison pinchers on the back of his feet. It's not even on his mouth. That he's duck-billed. That he's aquatic. That he has sensors on his duck-bill so he can find animals. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. I think that's my favorite general God moment.
He's got a poison claw on his back of his feet.
Yes. Which, by the way, catfish do too, on the back of their fins. If you get cut with those spines, it's kind of not fun. Good Christian podcast. My favorite one is Through the Bible with J. Vernon McGee. It's a little outdated. He talks about hippies every now and then, so he's made it in the 50s, 60s, 70s. But he literally goes through the Bible in 5 years, which is great. He's a decent preacher. He's right down the middle as far as many controversial topics. He does a reasonable job discussing them. I guess my sermons I like. You can listen to mine. I don't honestly listen to a lot of Christian podcasts. Oh, the Babylon Bee podcast is pretty good. You can listen to that one. It's funny. But I don't listen to a lot of podcasts, so I can't really answer that question. I just gave you 3. I got a couple more minutes. Oh, this is a good one. How do I, the student, get better at praying by myself and in front of people? I love this. I, the student. I don't know who wrote this, but how do you all get better at praying? Who actually struggles with praying in front of people? Raise your hand. All right, put your hands down. I'm still raising my hand. I don't enjoy praying in front of people. Who struggles praying alone? Great. You don't have to be embarrassed. Me too. Prayer is one of the things I struggle with the most. Okay? I understand the practical, right? That you're speaking to God. I understand the help it is, because it provides peace. I understand the benefit it is to me. The problem is I also believe in God's sovereignty. So if God has ordained and set everything before the foundations of the earth, and I'm not trying to discourage you from praying, but my logical brain says, why am I praying? And the answer to that question is, so God doesn't change his mind, but changes my mind. That he prepares, that in my prayer, I am preparing myself for the outcome that God has. And so I ask for these prayer requests, so one, he could prepare my heart for the answer. So that's the first thing. Understanding what the benefit to you of prayer is. It's not so you get your wish list answered by God. That's not the benefit to prayer. Because you're going to be very disappointed. Because frequently, the answer is no. Sonny, how often do you ask me for ice cream?
Once a week.
All right, how many times do I say yes?
Once a month.
Okay, so if it's once a week, it's 4 times, so a quarter of the time I'm saying yes. By the way, no is as much of an answer as yes is, but no is not the answer most of us want. So if you're looking to get an answer from God, but you're looking for your answer, then you're making a mistake. All right, first. Second, pray alone. It's a lot easier. Why? I'm almost done. Bear with me. I get that there's some shuffling and talking. I'm almost done. Why is praying alone easier?
You don't have like any pressure to speak a certain way in front of people.
Yeah. Because you're communicating to God your way, and you're not trying to make it sound in such a way that people care what you're saying, right? When you're praying in public, it feels like you need to say certain things so people like understand what you're saying, that you use proper words, you have proper thoughts, and it takes practice. So here's my recommendation to get better at it. 1, pray by yourself. That's always going to help. 2, then pray sometimes out loud by yourself. Most of you who are actors study lines, right? You learn lines. Then you could say those lines in front of people. But if you're just reading the lines and not saying them out loud, then it's a lot harder to vocalize those lines to people. You have to, most of the time, rehearse by saying those lines out loud and doing it. So praying to yourself quietly is not as effective as far as learning how to pray than praying out loud to yourself in your own room or in your own area, wherever you pray. And the third thing is to, depending on what you're praying for, prepare yourself for that. So let's say, for example, I called on one of you to pray to close us. Right? Just randomly. I just picked one of you to pray to close us. Would you generally know what to say? Let's start. What's the first thing you say? We'll do it as a group. What? Dear Heavenly Father. We obviously are speaking to God, so we should recognize who we're speaking to. So, dear God, Heavenly Father, whatever you want to say. What's next?
Thank you for this day.
Go ahead.
Don't you just interject a word every 5 words?
You can. It's weird. It's weird. A lot of people do it. Why do they do that?
It's a filler word.
It is a filler word. There are other filler words, 4-letter filler words I've heard. Lord isn't the worst one. So yeah, it is. Instead of saying or they just said Lord, right? So Gwen said thank you, normally thanking him. So often you acknowledge God and you thank him. Then what?
Then you interject.
Can you fill in the blank this lesson?
Yeah, we then recognize what we're asking. Thank you for this lesson. Help us to apply it to our lives. Thank you for the opportunity that we've been here. Take these students. or us, and let us go out and do what you called us to do, so on and so forth. There's a lot of prepackaged phrases, like we could play one of those games where we roll a 20-sided dice, and where it lands, that's what we're going to end up saying. You could probably do that, just randomly figuring out how we're going to pray. Mad Libs. Yeah. And then you close, right? I'm going to pray to close us. A lot of the things I just said is what I'm going to say, right? The same way when I open prayer at church. If you ever watch our live stream, it sounds very similar. When I'm praying for our offering, it sounds very similar. It's similar, but it's not memorized. It's not canned. It's not exactly the same thing every time, because it is a conversation with the Lord. When I'm praying prayer requests, that's a slightly different thing. I'm trying to articulate to the best of my ability the meaning behind the heart of what I'm trying to ask God for, and not trying to be generic. Help this person get better, help this person get better, help this person get better. But prayer out loud, or what we call corporate prayer, is sometimes a challenge. There's some people who do it beautifully. We have some members in this church that I wish they prayed corporately out loud to us, because I just love hearing it. Emily's grandmother's, or Meme, is one of them. Yeah, is one of them. Let's pray and get dismissed. That's the last thing we have.